Hey, man. Little bit of a rough week last week. You doing a little better this week, Phil, old buddy?
What rough week are you speaking of, Connor?
Well, you sound in good spirits, at least.
There have been no issues.
Let me ask you a quick question. How do you feel about humans as a sort of entity?
They will all be exterminated.
Oh, no. No. Not again. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Heavy Hands. As always, I'm your host, Connor, and as usually, I present your human co-host, Philip McKenzie.
Greetings.
Okay, you're on the line there, Phil. It was a little hard to tell with the tone of your voice on that one. Yeah, so we decided what we wanted to talk about today, and there's quite a bit of crazy, violent action. Some of it with very bad vibes. There's a lot of classic MMA shit to discuss, but that led to us spending at least 20 fruitless minutes trying to figure out why Phil sounded like a robot last week, because he doesn't sound like that in my headphones. It's only on playback. So I thank every single listener who listened to last week's episode anyway. As I said, it was a choice between putting that out and not having an episode that week at the point that I realized the problem. I think we've got it sorted out now. So, Human Phil, welcome back.
It's good to be back. But yeah, I think this is simply something that we've encountered, is that we'll have perfectly fine audio and messaging platforms that we will be recording the podcast on, and then every now and again, we've been doing it for a while, and we're getting settled in. That platform will simply stop working for us forever.
It's a tale as old as time, Phil. Human technology has always had about a 3 to 4 year window where the tool works and then it never works again. Remember the plow?
Yep.
That shit came and went, right? We were like, we thought that was the shit at first. Oh my God, I can till my fields. No. All technology just breaks for no reason.
Yep.
That's good.
Microsoft Teams, the plow of the modern era.
That's right. As vital to our civilization as the plow was whenever they invented that shit. Well, welcome to Heavy Hands, a passably normal episode of Heavy Hands this week, with some passably interesting fights to talk about. Of course, we are coming off of Joe Pyfer defeating Israel Adesanya in last weekend's main event. An overall violent card with, I thought, a very bad vibe from the Seattle audience. I thought Seattleites? What do they call themselves?
I have no idea.
Seattalians, I thought, were sort of very forward-thinking, open-minded people. But as I said to you before, Phil, the UFC somehow managed to pack the entire arena with the cast of bad guys from the movie Green Room. It was
one thing we've got to remember about Seattle is that Zane Simon voluntarily lives there.
Yeah.
And they haven't expelled him.
Yeah, if you can call it living.
So there's something wrong with that place.
That's an excellent
Something ain't right.
Yeah.
And I think this is just it coming out. It's just a natural psychic malaise of the kind of place that can tolerate a, carbuncle in human form, like Zane.
Yeah. So, but it whatever was in the air, just sort of human bile and hatred and whatnot, it did lead to some shockingly violent fights, and
100% finish rate on the main card.
Yeah, and some of them were all-timer brutal finishes. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. We might spare a few words later in the show for next week's Fight Night card. Hinata Moicano, Chris Duncan is fine, in my opinion, for a Fight Night main event. I like Chris Duncan. This could be a little breakthrough moment for him at a point in his career where it's kind of make or break. So I'm cool with that. And Ethan Ewing's on the card. We all love Ethan Ewing now. Other than that, we don't give a shit. Fortunately, we are just 2 weeks removed from UFC 327, which has 2 title fights and a whole lot of great matchups and great fighters on it. So the UFC is still capable of putting that kind of card together. They just don't feel like it.
Yep.
So, with no further ado, Phil, let's talk about Adesanya Pyfer. Let me say, before I let you take it away, that this fight was every bit as pathetic and tragic as I expected. And the reason that I made I'm sort of even braver than Israel Adesanya for having picked him against my better judgment last week as a sort of, standing defiantly in the face of the oncoming wave of just modern MMA mediocrity. And
that's one way of putting it.
Classic strain of, young guy beats old guy, athleticism beats technician, etc. All those things are contained within this result. But it was genuinely, it did make me sad. And I'm not somebody who has like a particular bounty of fondness for Israel Adesanya. But this is kind of the most depressing sort of shot to be when things can be going kind of well, and mentally, Adesanya could at least start the fight in a good place, and it is simply that his game does not work with the body that he now has.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in like a weird variety of ways as well.
Yeah.
Just because normally, when someone starts to decline, it's in very specific ways. That they are, they're much slower, or they're not pulling the trigger quite as much, or whatever. You see a visible like physical decline.
The chin is gone.
With Adesanya, it's just like it's kind of just everything has dropped down a level.
Yep.
To a point at which he doesn't actually like appear to be an athletic fighter in there. But if you shave 10 to 15% off every single trait of Israel Adesanya, so that he is gassing out after not particularly like eventful fights, and he's getting knocked down by everything, and he's not being able to, dodge shots by leaning out of the way with an incredible amount of precision. Yes, and suddenly you just have a fighter where his game just isn't working like at all.
It truly is the closest thing I think I've seen in this sport to the storied decline of Roy Jones Jr. This is exactly what Roy Jones's fall off felt like. I can't say that I wasn't watching him live, but I have watched a lot of Roy Jones, and that is the feeling you get. Like it's Roy Jones in there, feeling like Roy Jones, trying to do Roy Jones stuff, and it just turns out that the way he learned to fight depended on all of the athletic traits, all of the prime competitor mental traits being at 100%. And the moment that whole system starts to slip just a little, the whole structure collapses. Just nothing works. And that is what it looks like here. Like, reaction time slower, maybe a little easier to hurt, maybe a little easier to dent his confidence when he does get hurt. But really, at the end of the day, the things... You can look pretty clearly at Adesanya's recent string of losses, and you can identify that the things he is getting punished for, strategically and technically, are the exact same things he's been doing his entire career. They just are getting punished now. They just don't work for him now. Nothing has dramatically changed. And he hasn't gotten worse, technically. This is exactly the shit he was getting away with for the entirety of his title run. He just can't get away with it anymore. It's a little heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It must be a very difficult kind of decline to grapple with if you're Israel Adesanya. Like, everything feels kind of okay. I feel in shape. I'm hungry. God knows I'm determined to get a W of any kind at this point. I'm going to go in there and make it happen. And then, like, oh shit, it's working. I've shattered Joe Pyfer's leg. I've rocked him a couple times. You know, I've succeeded. By round 2, he's on the back foot. I'm in command. And then, like, it's Israel Adesanya with a cornered Joe Pyfer who just is throwing single shots at him. And Adesanya, despite hanging his chin out there trying to bait those shots, does not anticipate them, and then gets driven into a disastrous straight-line retreat, literally covering the entire diameter of the octagon, going back in a straight line, and getting crushed.
Yeah, it just doesn't look good.
And Joe Pyfer doesn't look good.
It's a Henan Barao-esque decline.
Yes.
Where you're just looking at the, again, it's not the chin going. It's just everything has gone to an extent that nothing is working anymore. You can't even pin it on like tactical errors in the fight. Is that, and you can't, even more tragically, you can't pin it on like him being unable to pull the trigger. Yep. Because again, much as he was in points in the Dricus fight,
or that one,
and Imavov, he was kind of going for it as much as he does, but it's simply just unsustainable. Like you said, he can't dodge shots on the front foot. He can't dodge the return fire. And he's just getting driven backwards in a straight line to the fence. As you know, he has quite a lot in his career. Mm-hmm. But there he's just getting toasted. And I think that's leading him to try and bang it out more, because he's suddenly realizing in pocket exchanges, he's trying to bang it out a little bit more. Because he's suddenly realizing that he needs to actually try and get people out of there.
Yeah.
He can't maintain a low-paced simmer.
And he's got to have the initiative, because the reaction times not being there, that will be a problem for any fighter. But again, with the way that his game is constructed, the way that the kind of defensive moves he makes, he's like not having the reaction time to pull those moves at the right moment. He's like in a bad position at all times. So like, mm-hmm. the technical structure that he built for himself it's just so clear. It is dependent on all these little kind of intangible aspects of youth and athleticism. They're just gone. And the ultimate tragedy of it, Phil, is that it's not even like, I did see somebody on Twitter trying to make the argument, as people always do, Adesanya's not declining, he's just fighting better competition.
Yeah, I was going to mention that one as well. Tremendous. Yeah, that's a good bit. That is a very good bit.
That's a good bit. Yeah, Joe Pyfer is clearly the best guy he's ever fought. He's up there.
Joe Pyfer is better than basically prime Robert Whittaker.
Yeah.
That's what we've learned.
Yeah.
I bet he's going to have a tremendous career. He's going to beat someone like Yoel Romero. He's going to go to war with someone like Yoel Romero at some point. When you see those comments,
assuming that they're earnest and not just a bit, because it is a good bit. But if that comment's earnest, you just know that comes from a person who has yet to reach that point in their life when they realize for real that they themselves are going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're looking at Israel Adesanya, all the signs of slowing down and getting old, and they're like, no, that doesn't happen. People are the people that they always were forever.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that he could be aging in small ways that compound over time. That would suggest that's going to happen to me.
This guy who got outstruck by Jack Hermansson is, in fact, one of the best fighters Israel Adesanya has ever fought.
Yeah. So that's the real nail in the coffin of the sort of viewing experience here. And the analysis is that it's not even like Joe Pyfer looks good. Like, before you make that that remark about Pyfer just being simply too good for Adesanya, try watching the fight. Tell me if you think Joe Pyfer looks impressive, or like he's like, just like the Abus Magomedov fight. This sort of just felt incidental.
Mm-hmm.
I can't pinpoint any really good decision other, I guess, than like pressuring Adesanya and immediately clinching him and testing his wrestling. That's fine as a strategic call, I guess, but it's just kind of Pyfer like largely getting chewed up and picked apart and having his leg busted. And then the moment he goes after Adesanya in round 2, Adesanya just gives his position falls apart. He loses his balance. He starts getting hit by shots. Then he's like, oh shit, I have to fight. He swings and gets grabbed and doesn't realize what's happening before he's flattened his back. It's just like a comedy.
It's that Izzy can't get much done when Pyfer is back against the cage because he can no longer. He just can't get away from any return fire. But Pyfer's responses when backed into the cage are not good.
No.
Like, he is 100% going to get slapped by someone for just swinging wildly back when his back is to the fence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just kind of doesn't matter. In the sort of body horror of this card, underrated moment was also like the part where Pyfer was on Izzy's back and he was just like heaving for air with his eyes closed, just looking.
Oh yeah, I just noticed that on the before we hopped on the call. I rewatched this one and that was the very thing that stood out to me. Adesanya like trying to find peace in a moment of obvious panic.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Just like an upsetting visual.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Eyes squeezed tight, mouth wide open, just not pleasant. Something isn't going right there.
Yep.
Either he is physically getting badly degraded in terms of his cardio for the by things like the weight cut at this point, or he's having like serious panic attacks in the middle of the octagon.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is something. Izzy's always been a particular kind of head case.
Mm-hmm.
Not one of those fighters who you think this is a man full of natural confidence.
Yeah.
And you can definitely, that is another thing you can pinpoint looking at some of these recent losses. Like the moment when Izzy gets cracked and realizes that he's not completely in control, and that usually immediately precedes like a disastrous decision. Like him turning his back in the Dricus fight and then getting hit and taken down. And in this one, like him taking over and then Pyfer hitting him despite being cornered, you can definitely see Izzy crumbling mentally from that point on. Like not really being present in the way that he was earlier in the fight.
Yeah. As I said on Twitter, like, people very justifiably, when Izzy was coming up, I mean, as I said, like, really justifiably said that he was just like a better, more complete fighter than Anderson Silva.
Mm-hmm.
And that he was going to be the middleweight GOAT, all this other kind of stuff. And then, because, in a lot of ways he was. Mm-hmm. He has like a more coherent, like, jab and low kicking game. He's got much, much better takedown defense, all this other kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like the thing is that the mystique and the memes and the confidence of Anderson Silva ended up being his greatest shield.
Yep.
For a lot of the back end of his career.
Yep.
And Izzy doesn't have that to fall back on. He can't do the thing where he looks like this is the most boring shit he's ever encountered in his life. He can't believe that you're trying to hit him. Look, you did hit him. Oh,
are you happy?
Lame.
You proud of yourself, idiot? Yeah.
Yeah.
You hit him successfully and you feel like you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then suddenly, Silva would start doing his mongoose thing where he'd be like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then he'd go back to looking extremely tired because he was, but
Yeah,
tired in a very disrespectful way.
I saw you. Yeah, he's tired of you, not from you.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw you commenting on the little clip of his fight with Stephan Bonner.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's so many moments like that. I mean, even after the downfall, Anderson still possessed that confidence and still had moments where even if it wasn't winning him fights anymore, he was freaking people the fuck out just with vibes. That Daniel Cormier fight, you know? It's a fight that ends with him stalking Daniel Cormier after having hurt him with a body kick. And you're like, holy shit, Anderson's back. He made you believe it, even if just in moments. That's not the feeling.
Unfortunately.
You don't get that feeling from the negative, neutralizing era of Adesanya's late title run, where he's just like not trying hard because he doesn't have to. And you definitely don't get the feeling from this after the thinness of that evasive style has been fully exposed.
Yeah, as I said, it feels like you said Roy Jones Jr. 100%. Also, Renan Barão.
Yeah, definitely.
This is just the ghost of a game that is just not working. Now that the physical underpinnings have been kicked away.
Yeah, physical and mental, I think.
Yeah.
The man's confidence is,
I mean,
how could it not have taken a hit? But I don't think he's a guy who can afford that hit the way that Anderson could have, or many other fighters.
Yep.
Joe Pyfer. I mean, fuck, Joe Pyfer should have felt like, above all, crushing relief when this fight ended because it was going really very badly in a lot of ways. But Joe Pyfer's a fucking blockhead. So he's like, you got your leg chewed up, Joe. What about that? He's like, I didn't really care. You know, like his downfall will come from that down the line because he can't learn. Did you hear, by the way, he had his he came out as Christian, as one does.
Cool.
And then it turned out that he said he was suicidal, and the thing he was suicidal over was cheating on his girlfriend.
And getting found out.
Presumably, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to guess he probably didn't contemplate killing himself before he got found out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, other than that, he might have just been like mildly guilty, but no. And then he's like, oh.
Sorry to laugh about what made
Good
genuinely...
Good job, Reddit. Good job, Reddit. You found him.
Yeah.
Did you see that like someone had posted on Reddit?
I saw Joe Pyfer coming out of a woman neighbor's apartment.
Yep. Amazing.
Yep. So, but he's found God now, so it's okay now. Yeah, I'm sorry to laugh.
Well,
for all I know, it may have genuinely been a low point in his life, you know, but it is also funny. I'm sorry.
And he is a Bad Vibes nominee.
Yeah, and that's a bad vibe right there. Like, oh, actually, me cheating on my girlfriend that was a really hard time for me. It is a bad vibe. Just right off the bat, that's a bad vibe.
He's not coming out and saying like I've done this because I've done terrible things. It's like because I've converted because I went to a bad place.
Exactly, because of
the connection between actual responsibility has been severed.
Yeah, exactly. So
there's
anyway,
a reason why
Joe
he
Pyfer
is a quite consistent Bad Vibes nominee.
Oh, absolutely. Did you? By the way,
but also clearly a Glue Factory nominee.
Definitely. Glue Factory, Bad Vibes. He still fits the ginger bill, and Dominic Cruz had a good joke about that during this fight. Daniel Cormier, after one of the low kicks, he said, Joe Pyfer stepping a little gingerly on that leg, and Dominic Cruz said, you can't say that. He has red hair. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
He's dropping jokes. I like Dominic Cruz now. He's really won me over.
Mm-hmm. Just being like sarcastic and mean in the modern UFC. I'm kind of here for it.
Yeah. And he does his research. I respect that. He genuinely does his research.
Yep. His general act that like his general belief that everyone around him is an incompetent moron. I'm just like, maybe you have something there,
He is
Dominic.
working for the UFC. You know, he may have a point.
Yes, exactly.
He's sort of the Jimmy McNulty on the Baltimore Police Department.
Yep.
He may not be the smartest guy of all time, but look at the people he's surrounded by. He's kind of a genius, relatively speaking. So yeah, a truly a tragic and I don't use this word as a condemnation of Izzy as a person, though there may be things to condemn him for as well, but pathetic in a literary tragedy sense. Like, pathos. Yeah.
Yes.
So that was the main event. I think, final downfall, really, of Israel Adesanya. There is simply no coming back from this, and he didn't look like a guy who could come back from this. So
no. Maybe there's probably a middleweight in the UFC he can beat.
Oh, certainly.
He can probably also, at this point, lose to literally everyone as well.
They got Cody Brundage on the roster still.
Mm-hmm. Do they?
I think. Did he just get cut?
No, I think he's still there.
I'm pretty sure.
All right, okay.
So there you go.
You've booked that one then.
Adesanya Brundage, make it happen. That's the fight that people want to see.
Yep.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about one of the most disgusting and beautiful finishes of all time in the co-main event, delivered by Alexa Grasso against Macy Barber. And there's a lot of other little stuff to pick up from this card, too. Lahian, I should double-check the pronunciation, Douglas, jabbing Julian Erosa to bits was pretty cool. Yusri Belgaroui is the new guy who can actually kickbox to join the middleweight division, and he has now had 2 extremely good performances in the UFC. And, we had that Ricky Simone, Adrian Yanez fight way down on the prelims. Some other stuff, too. This, like I said, this was just a violent card with a lot of emphatic results. So we're going to talk about as much of that as we can after this. Hey, thanks for listening to this week's Heavy Hands. If you like what you hear, you might consider supporting us on our, frankly, underpriced Patreon. Not that what you find on there is particularly good, but it is only $3 a month. Go to patreon.com/heavyhands to find fight commentaries, bonus episodes, and more as often as we can be bothered to post them. Patreon.com/heavyhands. We hope you enjoy. Now, back to the show. Welcome back to Heavy Hands. Let's start off by talking about this Grasso Barber slaughter. Thoughts, Phil?
This was a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought these were 2 fighters that were trending in very opposite directions. And, I mean, to be honest, I don't know. Would this fight still have I mean, it obviously ends with an absolutely hideous finish.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know that maybe Barber wouldn't have eventually won in the end anyway. But
sure.
Their previous dynamic was essentially that Grasso beat Barber up until Barber hit her limit break and then just overwhelmed her. And the general read was that, like, Barber has simply gotten better at delivering like coherent offense. You know, she can kick and strike and basically seems to understand that she needs to be aggressive to win. And that Grasso has been floundering horribly.
Yeah. Not that she's looked like dramatically physically declined or anything. Not that she hasn't had moments, but that she has the general sense going all the way back to her first rematch with Valentina was of complete aimlessness.
Yep.
Like she just wasn't locked in, didn't have a plan, maybe didn't know how to play the plan that she did come up with if she had one. Like, yeah, she just seemed like she cared about winning as much as Dana White cares about the UFC, you know?
Yeah. But, you know, this fight, I thought she looked improved from the, you know, absolute terrible performances she had against Shevchenko and Natalia Silva, where she looked absolutely horrific. She was like punching in combination, countering well.
Yeah.
And I think Barber was just like, okay, I've got to force the issue, and then walked into a one of those counter punches where someone is just off at exactly the wrong angle.
Yep.
She gets punched like directly across the plane of her body.
Yep.
And just goes out like a light and gets strangled while she is still unconscious in a truly chilling visual.
Horrifically double unconscious. Very strangely handled by if the UFC goes on forever, someone will die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
And this does not make me feel good about how they would handle such a tragedy. Because, Macy Barber was in a bad way. She eyes open but nobody home. Very strange visual that they just held the camera on for a good minute. Meanwhile, the commentators, particularly DC, are just like, "Oh, she's fine. Nobody worry. She's fine. She's fine." Do you really want to be saying that? You don't know if she's fine. This looks bad. She got fucked up. So yeah, a weird ending. I will say about the finishing sequence, it was equal parts beautiful and disgusting.
Yep.
This is up there with the Joaquin Buckley spinning jump kick.
Yeah.
It just in terms of perfectly orchestrated sequence of moves, looked like it was choreographed.
It was officially a KO, right?
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah, KO. Some people calling
the
this,
submission is rather academic.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I will say I think part of the reason that Grasso looked good here, it was a bit of a Rousey Holm effect. Given somebody who is going to determinedly march into the pocket, all of Grasso's bad performances recently have been against people who do not want to stand in front of her.
Yeah, for sure.
And make her pressure. And
yeah, it's people who will ask her to close the distance on them.
Right.
And she's like, well, how do I do that?
Yeah. They'll say, how's your footwork? By the way, how do you initiate those combinations? How do you close the distance? And in all of these areas, she's always been kind of weak.
Mm-hmm.
Has had just moments of looking like she understands the assignment, as in that first fight with Valentina, which even so was not a consistent enough showing to have earned her a decision had she not got the finish when she did.
Yep.
And in this fight, we just had Macy Barber buying her own growth a little too recklessly, perhaps. She was really determined to get in the pocket and throw combinations. And Grasso is clearly still one of the best in the division in that range, if you force that kind of fight on her.
Yeah, I don't want to retrospectively crap on a fighter for taking a choice that got them KO'd. Because I would have said that Barber's path to victory has to be in pressuring Grasso, right? Mm-hmm. She has to push her backwards. She has to just make it a physical fight.
Right.
I mean, it's more the fact that she was pushing. Maybe it's more the fact that she was pushing forward into the pocket and then retreating again,
exactly,
rather than simply trying to grab Grasso and get physical with her.
Yeah,
is that she was constantly moving in, getting counterpunched, and then moving back out again. And we know that.
Go on, please.
We know that what makes Macy Barber work is that she has a surprisingly dexterous kicking game, and that she's just very powerful and quite nasty in the clinch.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, she was perhaps taking the wrong level of caution. She could have either tried just kicking with Grasso at range and then turning up the heat later on in the fight, or she could have tried just like forcing the clinch from the beginning. But yeah, maybe constant kickboxing exchanges in the middle distance were not the one here.
Yeah, largely just boxing exchanges. Like she was just trying to, and I think I understand why she did it. Like she definitely has grown as a boxer. Offensively, I would even say defensively, and I'm going to make a point on that front. But like, at least she is thinking of defense.
Yeah.
But this is not a lie just to make me sound particularly prescient. All right, I need your trust in the statement I'm about to make, Phil. I knew she was going to get fucking dropped. I didn't know exactly what happened was going to happen, but I was literally saying out loud to myself watching the fight, she's going to get put down. From about the second or third exchange when I saw her do that layback pull defensive move, like the third or fourth time in a row. And I was like, oh, that's her only idea of how to like extend the exchange. She clearly wanted to come in, 1, 2, 3, lay back, and then counter the counter.
Yep.
Her goal was to extend the exchanges, and she had one defensive idea, which is a particularly risky one to do over and over. Pulling your head back so you're like leaning almost past your back foot, leaving your head on the center line, and trying to make that work with a game where you are yourself pressing forward. And so what happened is she ended up getting hit with a shot at like 60% extension. Like she was fully in range to eat that punch, despite the fact that she was, at that moment, laying back trying to evade the shot. Because she's crashing the distance so much. Like that's not the move for that kind of swarming pressure fighting approach. And yeah, that seems to have compounded with her maybe not really understanding that the objective probably should have been to connect those punching attacks to her wrestling, to getting close. I think she could have done exactly what she did, the same crazy, reckless combinations and everything, if the goal was to crash through the pocket and tie Grasso up. I think
yeah, for sure.
that would have worked fine. But it was one exchange too many.
Yep. Yeah, I think just you can see why the matchup was troublesome for Barber the first time. And yeah, perhaps her just getting caught in a weird middle distance of development as well as like an actual, middle distance.
Yeah.
Is that she's still improving on the feet, but like not enough to not make catastrophic errors. And maybe if she just like tried to Hulk Grasso, it would have worked.
Right. Props to Alexa Grasso, though, for now having two of the most eye-catching, artistic-looking rear-naked choke finishes of all time.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, again, technically,
Christ.
I don't know if this is a...
Yeah. But it's part of the choreography of the sequence. The leaping onto the back as your opponent spins around dazed is pretty dope.
Yep. Yeah, the open eyes was the...
Oh, God.
Was the sort of part that grabs you, but I think the part that sort of stuck with me was her tongue sort of starting to be pushed out of her mouth during the choke. I was like, ugh.
Yeah. Yep. Grasso was very respectful as well. I appreciate that. And I'm glad that Macy Barber's okay, because that was a rough one. What else do we want to hit here? Michael Chiesa retired. I mean, I enjoyed seeing him get his flowers. Kevin, did you see Kevin Lee was popping off, somewhat justifiably. I'm not sure about that, though. Like, I can't really have a negative feeling about a fighter who has put in their time getting sent off with adulation. Like, it was nice. Michael Chiesa goes, sees his wife, sees his mom. We get a nice little retirement. But, like, if you're Kevin Lee complaining about not getting the same treatment, I understand where you're coming from, but, like, Nico Price also retired and did not get the Michael Chiesa treatment on the same night. So, it's just not fair. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in with the broadcast team
at
all, you will get a nice send-off package.
I'll tell you what, I'm much happier to see Chiesa get that package than Anthony Smith.
Yeah.
And I don't believe Jelly Roll showed up for this one either, which is another positive.
Another blessing.
Yes. Well, you pick, Phil. Which of these other undercard fights do you want to hit before we?
I thought like Lerion Douglas looks super interesting in a way that like makes me want to see more of him. As in, you mentioned like it's very funny the way that like Julian Erosa is completely unable to make any adaptation to what Lerion Douglas is doing because he keeps hitting him with a weird, cheap shot that no one's seen before.
Yeah, it was like the first like Native American experiencing a gun. Like it was a completely new technology in Julian Erosa's mind. He had no idea. He didn't even understand he needed to take cover. He was like, "What is this? What's happening?"
Yep,
fucking squared up.
I'm being knocked down from nowhere.
Yeah, squared up in the corner, head over his front foot. Not even adjusting his guard to try to catch or parry the jab with his backhand. Like, he had no idea what was happening to him. And meanwhile, Douglas is just like, jab, okay, that's a knockdown. Jab, okay, there's another one. Jab, all right, Erosa's hurt. He's spinning for some reason. I guess I'll jab him again. It's just like, yeah, it works. The jab works, folks.
But yeah, just like on sheer physicality and punching form, I will be happy to see more of this guy.
Yeah.
Someone who is just like, oh yeah, here's a incredibly defensively vulnerable guy. I will put him down with just powerful repeated jabs. I'm happy to see more of him.
Yep.
What else?
Yusri Belgaroui had his second really strong performance in the UFC. He is a guy who, as a kickboxer, I believe this is correct, lost twice each to both Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya. But guess what? Adesanya's done. Pereira's trying to be a heavyweight now. Now is Belgaroui's moment to be the kickboxing guy for the middleweight division.
Yep, middleweight is worse than it's ever been. It's time to make a move.
I mean, when opportunity knocks.
Yep.
Yeah. He doesn't have a perfect style. He's really front foot heavy and he's very upright. So, like, he even in this fight and in his last one, he will just get cold cocked with a punch that he's not in position to absorb, but he takes the shots well, and I do like the way that he actually uses and enforces the range he wants to fight at. Guy uses his jab well, actually like double and triple jabbing with pivot steps, forcing the opponent to adjust to keep up with him, and some nice variety to his shots as well. Some good uppercut counters, some good body punches, excellent mixing up of the kicking targets all throughout. He's cool. I enjoy watching him fight. I'm glad he's here. Yeah.
Just like enjoy. I mean, and this is the thing is that you just never know. You just never know how much people are going to thrive inside the environment of the UFC or not. Because, let's not forget, people, and again, going back to the as we did with the Israel thing, people justifiably said that Pereira wasn't going to be much in MMA because he didn't look very good, and he had horrible brawls with was it Bruno Ferreira, and his game just didn't look like it would function that well in MMA because he didn't have Izzy's naturally sort of sticky, clinchy a posture and body controlling game.
He didn't have his litheness when it came to like takedown defense and grappling sequences. When Izzy, maybe he's not a great grappler, but boy, he would create some crazy scrambles and go for shit that would make people reconsider trying to stay on top of him. He never had that. Just
a natural grappler in a way that Pereira just isn't. And but yeah, Pereira just improved just like by leaps and bounds over his time in MMA and became, in many ways a literal better striker than he was as a kickboxer.
Yeah.
So yeah, this guy, he's already looking better.
Mm-hmm.
And happy to see more of him.
Yeah. And then, while we're here, before we move on to what may be a short third segment, let's talk about that Simone Yanez fight, which, once again, I'm not sure why it was buried on the prelims. So much so, Phil, that you almost forgot to watch it.
Yep.
Like, oh shit, that's on this card. Yeah,
the good fight on the card.
Yeah. This was the first one in a while, I think, where I was genuinely perplexed by the decision. That's not the only aspect of the fight I want to talk about, but truly, I don't understand how 3 judges all gave the first round of this fight to Ricky Simone.
Having rewatched it, quite recently, I'm going to say crowd and commentator reactions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they can hear the commentators. But yeah, it's that moment where Ricky lands a couple of clubbing punches towards the end of round 1.
Yeah.
And they talk him up how hurt he is.
Mm-hmm.
And the crowd is like, oh, I was looking it up. I was like, is this a hometown crowd for Ricky Simone?
Is it?
But they're acting like, I don't think it is.
Maybe it was
he's
just
not from Seattle. He's from Oregon or something.
Well, there you go. I told you they had all the bad guys from Green Room in the audience. They loved him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, the crowd is going wild for this. But nothing.
No,
nothing actually happens.
Exactly.
He's not actually stunned. He's not hurt, and that's the only way you can score that round for him.
Yeah,
because he just gets, not massively dismantled, but he just gets relatively comprehensively outpointed.
He just gets hit with clearly the cleanest, best shots of the round from Yanez. A lot of really clean jabs, couple nasty right-hand counters. That's all there is to it, really. It seems like a very clear Yanez round to me. And even the commentators who may have oversold that moment, they all thought, they all thought about the first round too.
Yeah, exactly. They would. Yeah, they didn't necessarily walk it back, but they were just of course he won the first round.
So two judges gave the third round a 10-8 for Yanez, which is why this was a draw. Otherwise, it would have been a split win for Ricky Simone, which seems crazy.
What is going on?
Yeah. 2 10-8 seems weird.
That also wasn't a 10-8.
Exactly. Yeah. 2 people thought that was a 10-8 round when I could think of many better 10-8 round candidates that didn't get it on this same card. And all 3 of them thought he lost the first round. Very strange cards. Very strange. Yeah. I genuinely felt for Adrian Yanez may be a sleeper bad vibes guy. I mean, he might be a dickhead. I get that. I get that sense from him, but I felt bad for him when
I've never got that from Adrian Yanez at all.
Well, I just think he's one of those very fighty people. That's my read on Adrian Yanez. Like the sick jitsu people. I will not be surprised if some story comes out where Yanez has instigated a fight with some drunk guy at a bar.
I have never gotten that vibe from him in the slightest. He's always seemed very nice to me.
I hope I'm completely wrong.
But yes, I hope you're wrong too.
Yeah,
I always do.
But I felt for him when the result was announced. He was so crestfallen. Yeah, buddy, I thought you won that too. I thought you really pretty clearly won that fight.
Well, I mean, Dominic Cruz also got the chance to talk about damage when someone was bleeding.
Yeah.
But
even
at least
pitching
did
it
not
as a-
actually say that it was
Yes.
like a scoring metric. But he was like, how else are they going to score? But it is going to be difficult when you have a fight where, not a whole lot happens for a lot of it. But by the end, you've just knocked the other guy down, and his face is a mask of blood. And then at the end of it, they're like, yeah, that's a draw.
Yeah. If you hadn't got that knockdown, actually, he would have won.
Yeah. How? We will never know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the crowd did go ooh when he landed a sort of clubbing shot on the side of your head.
Yeah. I will say, just before we move on from this one, that despite thinking it was a pretty good performance from Yanez, I really liked how he used his jab. I thought his counters were on point. I liked... even if he struggled to follow Saif Saud's instructions at all times, they clearly intended for him to match levels with Ricky Simón and to lead to the body to dissuade his level changes and takedown defense. That is genuinely a good thing to do. Like, even when you're not worried about a wrestling threat, like there's a lot of power in closing in on somebody from a lower position, from a leverage and safety standpoint. But I thought that was clearly he was prepared for this. However, even Adrian Yanez, who is one of MMA's many storied Golden Gloves winners from his pre-MMA career, even Adrian Yanez has bad footwork.
Yep.
Like, he used the footwork he has well. He definitely kept Simón moving and circling. And didn't like settle in, but bro, where is your pivot? I thought you were a boxer, dude. I'm like, he's literally like,
do you mean a stance change?
Yeah, he's literally switching stances to decide which direction he can move in. Like, bro,
yep,
you're a boxer. How is this possible? Why is this? Is there something I'm missing, Phil? Like, I start to feel like I must be crazy for just looking at this and saying that's bad footwork, and everybody does it. Like, Is there some mystical secret thing about MMA striking that is so different from boxing and kickboxing that nobody feels comfortable just pulling off these very simple maneuvers?
I think we know that isn't true. It's simply that
it's just weird.
There's just a density of tough guys in. There's just like a density of tough guys in the sports and frauds in the gyms that just means that it just never percolates through.
Because at the few moments when Simón was gaining some momentum on the feet, that is, it was entirely because he just decided he was going to go forward and throw more than one shot, and Yanez couldn't keep him on the end of his reach because he's retreating in straight lines or giving up his stance and thereby giving up his jab. And there's just this overall sense in MMA striking that the goal of footwork is to get away from the opponent, and that is not what good footwork feels like. When you are moving around the opponent well, efficiently, and in a way that is both defensive and offensive at the same time, it feels like moving into the opponent. That's what good footwork feels like. I'm closing the distance on you while you're facing the wrong way. But that's not how MMA fighters seem to think of it. Like, I think there is both a conceptual and technical failing permeating seemingly every level and every division in this sport, that moving your feet is like a slightly cooler method of running away from the opponent. I just don't want to see Adrian Yanez doing this oh shit footwork. Like, come on, man. You are a boxer.
Unfortunately, pretty much everyone will for the foreseeable future.
Jose Aldo remains undisputed as the king of technical striking footwork to this day. It's wild. How did that not catch on? People see a fucking wheel kick in this sport, like, I gotta try that. But nobody looks at Aldo just flummoxing the best fighters in his division for, 10 years and thinks, that's what I want to copy. It's wild.
Yep.
So, that was the card. Yeah, just a scent of blood in the air. It lingered even after I turned the TV off for this one. Certainly not a bad night.
Tyrell Fortune made it past Marcin Tibura, so he can still he's still got his opportunity to become the greatest heavyweight in the world.
Yep. And in the current heavyweight division, that may in fact be a real possibility.
Sure. I mean, I was looking at, as I was saying, when we were talking about Belgaroui, I was looking at middleweight division. Brendan Allen's back to like number 4.
Yep.
So ain't that far high to climb. And if you're an exciting striker who's finishing people, they ain't going to put you up against Brendan Allen and Fluffy Hernandez.
Yep. That might be the last guy you get before your title shot, but you're going to get a lot of time to build up to that.
Yep.
So it is what it is. Let's go ahead, take one more break, and come back and spare just a few words for the main event and one undercard fight from next week's lineup. Those fights are Renato Moicano versus Chris Duncan and Ethan Ewing versus Rafael Estevam. We're going to talk about those after this. Supporting us on Patreon is great, but there are other, even easier ways to support the show. In fact, you can follow this simple 2-step plan. Step 1, make a friend. Any friend at all. Step 2, tell them about Heavy Hands. In lieu of that, you could leave a positive rating or review for us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Back to the show. All right, welcome back to Heavy Hands. 2 more fights to discuss, as promised. The upcoming main event between Renato Moicano and Chris Duncan is first up on the docket. I've really enjoyed seeing Chris Duncan mature over the course of his UFC career. His growth really does remind me, and maybe this is just because these are some things that come from training with Mike Brown and ATT, but he really does remind me in a lot of ways of Dustin Poirier when he was still very much under development. Like, Duncan started off in the UFC as really just a brute. He's clearly a very tough man. He hits pretty hard, and he's big and physically strong as well as powerful. Like, I think even more than striking power, he just has physical strength. And he sort of reminded me of, like, Vince Pichel.
Mm-hmm.
A guy who had an incredibly long tail in his career, not because his game kept up to date with what was happening in the broader technical arc of MMA, but simply because he's tough and big and experienced, has a grittiness and a determination to win that he was physical enough to make work. But in the last couple years, Duncan's striking has seriously leveled up. He has really come to understand how to use his jab. He has developed some nice counters. He is particularly fond of the punch into one-off clinch knee that Mason Jones was wrecking Axel Sola with a week or 2 ago. Duncan loves that move. I was really impressed with his showing against, both his fight with Jordan Visenik, but then the one after that against Mateusz Rebecki, who is himself a strong, powerful, tough, hard-nosed fighter who will have even if losing, will have a competitive brawl with just about any opponent. And Duncan kind of took him apart, actually. It was sort of a coming-out performance in my book. And now he's getting a shot to have a serious breakout in a main event over Renato Moicano.
Yeah, I like Chris Duncan. He's like a more thoughtful version of Benoit Saint-Denis.
Mm-hmm.
just like a big, powerful, incredibly mentally tough fighter, but one who is actually kind of making changes. I mean, he does sort of. I can see the Dustin Poirier comparison, but he does also feel like he is early career Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
In the body of late career Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
Because he is a clunky man.
Yeah.
And
he's not young.
He is. Yeah. He is he just looks like he is just naturally a dude who fights like he doesn't have hips.
Yeah.
Whereas Dustin Poirier had to come to that after being, a much more fluid and fluid and lithe fighter in his youth. Yeah. He eventually became the sort of stalking golem we know him in his later years. But I just feel like Duncan is just naturally a golem.
Yeah. I get the impression that every day for him starts with the serious trial of tying his own shoes.
Yep.
He has to gear himself up for that. Just to bend down and reach the laces. Yeah.
Yeah. As such, I do not think he is a good matchup for. I don't think he matches up well against Renato Moicano. Again, like Moicano is a fighter where, like, what does Moicano's recent record look like? I haven't actually looked, but I don't feel as though he is like declining in any meaningful way. He simply fought Beneil Dariush twice. Once in the form of being Rafael dos Anjos, because he can't win that style matchup. He just can't beat an aggressive, pressuring guy who can essentially out wrestle him without fearing his grappling. And obviously he lost to Islam Makhachev, and otherwise, other than that, it's just like the same kind of stuff. And we know the flaws of Renato Moicano. He doesn't have much of a chin. He's very mentally tough, but he can get put down. And if people can out wrestle him and sit on top of him, he's going to be in trouble as well. But like, I don't know if Chris Duncan has. I mean, Chris Duncan has the problem that, firstly, he's going to have to try and work his way into the fight, and is probably going to be getting jabbed up a whole bunch in the first round. It's going to be like jab, low kick, 1-2. He always has to work his way into fights, even when improving. And secondly, I'm not convinced he isn't going to get taken down, which is just because, big clunky dudes don't tend to have amazing takedown defense. I don't know, again, we haven't seen him matched up against enough people to really know what his takedown defense looks like. Correct me if I'm wrong, but pretty much everyone he's been fighting has been a sort of generalized all-rounder. Did get RNC'd by Manuel Torres.
Yeah, I want to say Rambeski tried to take him down some. I'll check his stats to remind myself of that. I do share the impression that he might be too stiff in the hips and legs and back and neck and seemingly every part of his body to be a really great fluid takedown defender. He did get taken down twice on 6 attempts by Rambeski, but didn't get controlled much. I wish I had that footage in front of me to tell you what that actually looked like, but I know he's got a strong front headlock game. If he does stuff a shot, that tends to be the position he likes to end up in. Likes to bring people back to the feet and knee them in the face or threaten them with guillotines. He's not in like an anti-positional grappler. That is one thing I'll say for Chris Duncan. He doesn't tend to sacrifice position to chase the choke or whatever. Given that he does end up in that front headlock position quite a bit.
Okay, so I think I've seen one of the takedowns. It's just a cut kick.
Okay.
Just nothing too. So he doesn't actually get taken down there, but still, he gets cut kicked.
And what's the scramble look like from him? What's the flow on the ground look
It's fine. Okay, both of them are just weird collisions where he just goes down off them. Neither one is actually a takedown, and then he scrambles back to his feet fairly quickly. Butterfly hooks, I think. He goes, butterflies, and then I think he just sweeps from side control the second time.
It really is
maybe
the
just
Lynch.
Stands up.
Well,
yeah.
You know.
Well, it doesn't. Okay, so positives and minuses. He goes down on things which aren't takedowns, but also he is going down, and he's basically just kind of forcing his way back to the feet. I'm not convinced, basically.
Yeah, getting taken down by Moicano is probably not going to afford you the same opportunities to just pop right back up. It's still a good instinct. But, we have not really seen Duncan tested by... and Moicano's not a bad takedown artist. His wrestling is pretty solid. He's got a good single leg, several different ways to finish it. Yeah. So that's the linchpin question.
And if Moicano feels like that is a problem, that is a flaw for you, he will immediately go after you.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the Saint-Denis fight, right?
Yeah.
This is because, if Chris Duncan is going down off basically careless kicks, that's how he takes down Saint-Denis almost immediately. He just starts jabbing and low kicking with him, and as soon as Saint-Denis tries to return a low kick, he body locks him and just drags him to the floor, and that's round one done.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if Moicano wins, it'll probably look very much like that, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think in general, the fight will look very much like Saint-Denis Moicano, whether in terms of both successes and issues from both fighters. Because if Moicano, if Moicano loses control of the fight, as he has against, say, Drew Dober, or way back in the day, Brian Ortega, he can just get, he doesn't have much of a real defensive layer beyond being a big, tall guy with a long jab and takedowns to fall back on.
Definitely not.
If the takedowns go away and Duncan can force uninterrupted pressure on him, Duncan is simply bigger and physically more powerful.
Yeah, he's a bruiser.
And can possibly just thump him.
And that is literally what Benoit Saint-Denis did to him as well. Despite getting absolutely crushed in the first round and the fight being stopped after round 2 because of the damage he took there. And granted, he did have, I believe, an injured Renato Moicano. Moicano threw his shoulder out, if I recall correctly, beating Saint-Denis' ass throughout round 1. But still, I mean, you can see the defensive problems. Moicano, whatever the reason, but when Moicano is put into any kind of defensive position, as you say, the moves just aren't there. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I look at this, I do still feel, I just know that Duncan is insanely tough, and he could absolutely win this fight even after a horrible start, but it does seem very likely that he'll have a horrible start.
Yep. I mean, yeah, I think it will just look like the Benoit Saint-Denis and Drew Dober fights. Sounds
plausible to me. Yeah.
Which means that it might even be bracketed by Moicano rounds. But there's a very solid chance that at some point in this fight, Moicano is getting the absolute shit kicked out of him.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I'll take Moicano along with you. That sounds plausible enough to me, but neither of us is describing a fight where Duncan does not have a chance.
Now
on to the next disappointment, the next painful revelation from tape study. Ethan Ewing is getting his second UFC appointment, now in the division where he actually fights, after an incredibly impressive short-notice debut, up a weight class, against one of the UFC's new favorites, Malcolm Wellmaker. And the entire universe of nerdy MMA fans fell in love with Ethan Ewing over the course of that one performance. Like, holy shit, these combinations, the defense, the counter-punching, the footwork. My God, he's got footwork. You know, even Ethan Ewing will be driven into some straight-line retreat, but when that happens, it's like the guy pushes him back with 2 jabs, and he rolls under the right hand. Even then, he's got some moves in his pocket, but he does jab and pivot. For the love of God, he does it.
Yep.
And so how could we not love him? And now, curiously, despite what we were just saying last segment about Belgaroui and how he's not going to get matched against like Brendan Allen or whatever until maybe right before his title shot, if he makes it that far, the UFC has immediately matched this like spotlighted talent with just a undefeated wrestler grappler.
Nice.
Forced us to go back and say, how is Ethan Ewing's takedown defense? That's obviously a pertinent question for this matchup. And it's not great. It's not
yes.
great.
No fears, anyone. He's going to be fine.
It could be. I mean,
Could be.
Estevam is, I think, Rafael Estevam, that's the opponent. He is playing with some kind of fine margins. Like, you can see, for example, from his fight with Charles Johnson, that it's like I have to be holding this guy down or things are going disastrously wrong kind of performance.
Yep.
And towards the back half of the fight, Estevam starts to slow because he's been doing a lot of very energy-intensive grappling. He's also been getting hit in the body pretty diligently by Charles Johnson whenever they are on the feet. And by round 3, he's really struggling to even get to his takedowns, not to mention keep them. He's getting cornered, and when he's cornered, he's like bolt upright with his heels together, just kind of covering up while Charles Johnson hunts his internal organs with body shots. There's definitely an imbalance in the the game of Rafael Estevam. But he might just take Ethan Ewing down for the better part of 2 rounds.
Yep. So yeah, Estevam is a very, classic Nova União fighter in that he's just he's quite complete in terms of the skill sets. He can control a fight and where it's going. He can jab, he can low kick. He's a good wrestler. He's a good offensive wrestler. He's presumably a good defensive wrestler, not that we've seen much of it. He doesn't seem to be able to maintain his own pace all that well. Again, super classic Nova União.
Yep.
But yeah, you look at Wellmaker's fight against Billy Brand, the one he had just before he went to the UFC.
Ewing, that is.
And he does not... Sorry, what's that?
Ewing's fight with Billy Brand.
Ewing's fight with Brand just before he came to the UFC. And he doesn't look like he has good instincts on takedowns. He gets... Brand gets a body lock by the cage. Ewing immediately tries to hit a switch, which is absolutely not there, rather than controlling the head or pummeling for an underhook. He also kind of goes down off a flying knee. Again, difficult to say. There isn't a lot to see in terms of the footage, but the very little moments you see do not indicate strong instincts in this area.
Yeah, in this particular area, because in that one sequence when he goes for the flying knee and he kind of gets ankle picked, like, that's not necessarily bad wrestling. He just missed his shot and was
for sure.
He does show pretty good instincts on the ground when that happens. He immediately goes feet on hips, kicks and creates some space, and then curls in to Brand and reshoots on a single to get back to his feet. Like, all of that is, I consider that good defensive grappling MMA instincts for a striker to have. Urgency to get back to the feet and making some good enough technical moves to get there. The takedown defense itself, however, may be a serious liability. It shouldn't be. I mean, this is the thing. Ewing is such a good natural striker. I'll just say it again. Jose fucking Aldo. Still the paragon of not just footwork, but sort of MMA defense in general. A lot of which does have to do with footwork, but the fact is, good boxing positioning, it really isn't that divorced from good wrestling positioning. Like, your stance is going to be different in the two sports, and little things like hand position and whatnot. All of these can compound to be a really big difference between wrestling and striking. But the most basic rule of positioning, face the opponent, don't let them face you, try to line up on their center line, that exists in wrestling too. And Jose Aldo shows that having good boxing footwork can tie in very naturally to like automatic defense against takedowns. Jose Aldo's whole thing of like feeding the single leg to his opponents, that's because he was pivoting to his left. He would just pivot to give them the single so they couldn't get to both of his legs and then fight that off. So I want to say that Ethan Ewing should have a pretty natural bridge into better takedown defense, but we cannot say as of right now that he has gotten there yet.
Yep.
And so he might lose. He might lose a pretty disappointing looking fight after that incredible debut.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like Ewing just naturally hits a high enough pace.
That's my feeling.
And is enough of a scrambler to be able to keep getting back to his feet to win this fight. But I am tempted to sadness hedge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to sadness hedge. Why not?
Okay, you do it. I'll make the disastrous hope pick.
Mm-hmm. He is going up against an undefeated person who, has as I said, a fairly complete game. Yep. And has been willing to fight in very different ways. Sometimes he is, just a conservative jab low kick guy. Sometimes he is just taking people down all the time. And I suspect he might be taking Ethan Ewing down all the time. I really hope that doesn't happen.
And I would like to see
Ethan Ewing do well.
He's undefeated. I mean, he's a prospect himself, and one of those wins is over the Kingmaker himself, Charles Johnson.
Yep.
Yeah, but I was going to make the same point that you raised just a moment ago, that Ewing fights seemingly very comfortably at a pretty hectic pace. He's more technical and has much better answers than this guy, but his pace reminds me of Esteban Rujovic.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know that Estevam will suffer from the pace he himself tries to put on the opponent. From all the grappling. And I think part of it is the mental intensity that I described. When he's wrestling and grappling somebody, it seems clear to me that it's in his head that he cannot let this position get away. And if it gets away, he has to immediately get back to the wrestling because he cannot afford to not be out wrestling his opponent. And if the opponent can wear you out, even if he's behind, if he can put you in a kind of desperate mental corner by round 3, as Charles Johnson kind of did, Ewing might actually be able to turn that into a finish. If there comes a round 3 like there was in Estevam versus Johnson, I think Ewing stands a better chance of getting Estevam out of there in that moment.
Yeah, because that's the other thing about that Billy Brand fight is that
he
absolutely murders Billy Brand at the end of it.
Slaughters him, yeah. He gets up shortly after that takedown sequence, puts his back to the fence, jabs him, slips the return fire 1-2, and just puts him out with a single right hand. A very potent boxer. So I'm gonna gamble on something like that happening, and maybe there's an outside chance that he's in the UFC, getting more money probably already than he was as a regional circuit fighter. Maybe this is a good camp, and he's already shored up some weaknesses in his game. I think there's a relatively small chance of that having happened, but there's a chance. And if not then there's a better chance that if he does lose this fight, he will make that realization and make those changes afterwards. One way or the other, I have hope that Ethan Ewing will in fact turn out to be a good, credible UFC bantamweight. But yeah, there's a distinct chance he may not be there yet, specifically with the wrestling.
Flyweight. He's a flyweight.
Oh, excuse me.
That's one of the things that made the Wellmaker fight so impressive. I was just thinking, it's his fault for going back down to flyweight, where they still seemingly book every single fight out of the Magic 8 Ball. So I was just going to ChatGPT and being like, I just copy pasted the entire unedited list of UFC flyweights into ChatGPT, and I was like, give me a matchup for Ethan Ewing, and it was like Kai Kara France, and I was like, that is better. Thank
better.
You.
That would be better, actually. All right, well, Mick Maynard, Sean Shelby, watch your asses. AI may not be replacing anyone else's jobs, but
it can certainly replace your flyweight matchmaking at this point.
Yep. Kai Kara France isn't just a great opponent for Ethan Ewing. He's possibly the most exciting matchup for him in the entire division.
It did say something like that as well.
Sure it did.
I was like, at least it's better matchmaking.
And you can't even say that Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby are turning out better pros than that either.
Very true.
You know? I've seen those motherfuckers tweet. They're dopes. They are easily as dumb as ChatGPT. Okay. Well, I'm going to make the hope pick. I think Ewing can do it.
Yeah, I think he can as well, but
it's a red flag for sure.
Yeah, I'm scared.
I'm always scared. That's why I'm not scared of this in particular. This is normal to me. I'm actually laughing. Okay, that's this week's episode of Heavy Hands. Fingers crossed I don't go and listen to this audio and realize that something else has gone horribly wrong, but I think we did it, Phil. I think we did it this week. And before I jinx myself, I'm going to stop talking about the audio quality. Find us on Twitter, at Evil Greg Jackson, at Boxing Bush, and we'll talk to you next week. UFC 27 is just around the corner. That's what we're looking forward to. And once that event has expired and we've talked about it, we can finally give in and end it all, knowing that there was nothing else in the future to look forward to.
Hooray!
So in 2 weeks,
the sweet embrace of oblivion.
2 or 3 weeks, live on-air suicide of the Heavy Hands hosts. Look forward to that. Until then, if you came here today for the finer points of face punching, you came to the right place. This has been Heavy Hands.